Okay, so arithmetic sequences, he should have these on the board if you need to use them for the exam. So arithmetic sequences are sequences that when you take the first number you have and add something or subtract something to it to get the next number, okay? This is what we call the recursive formula. So it's saying any number is equal to a1 if n equals 1. And then a sub n minus 1 is any other number plus d, okay, would get to the next term, okay? This is the explicit. So for any term, all we have to do is take the first term plus whatever number of terms we have minus 1 times the difference, how much we're going up or down. Okay, and that will give us the a to the n term. If we need to add up all the terms together, we would use this formula. So the first term plus whatever that last term is that we're looking at. So if we're looking at the 10th term or the 12th term or whatever term they tell us, okay, times that by the number of terms divided by 2. So first thing, let's look at these terms. So we have 1, 4, 7, 10. So I want to check to see that that's an arithmetic sequence. I'm adding 3, adding 3, adding 3 every time. So if I want to find the 42nd term, I'm going to use my explicit definition. So I'm going to try to find a sub 42, which would equal whatever a1 is, which we know the first term is 1, plus n minus 1, which would be n is 42 minus 1 times our difference, which is 3. So I have 1 plus 42 minus 1 would be 41 times 3. 41 times 3 is going to be 123. Plus 1 would be 124. So my 42nd term would be 124. So you can just plug and chug that in the calculator. If I wanted to find my recursive formula, I just need to know my a1. So I would write, let me give myself a little bit of room here. So I would write a sub n is equal to my first term, which is just 1, if n equals 1, okay? And then I would just write a sub n minus 1 plus 3 if n is greater than 1. So this right here, this stuff will never change. It's always going to be if n equals 1, if n is greater than 1. This will change, this will not change, and this will change. So the only two things that really change are this plus 3 and the 1. So whatever the first term is and whatever the change is, that's the only thing that changes for recursive form. Next, it says find the sum of the first 10 terms. Okay, well, if I want to find the sum of the first 10 terms, I need to know my first term, which is 1, and I need to know my 10th term. So I'm going to figure out what a sub 10 is. Well, a sub 10 would be my first term, which is 1, plus n minus 1, which is 10 minus 1, because I'm looking at my 10th term, times my difference, which is 3. Again, I'm just using my explicit formula here. A1, n is 10, because we want to know 10, minus 1 times the difference, which is 3. So 10 minus 1 is 9, times 3 is 27, so the 10th term is 28. Now, that's just the 10th term. It wants the sum. They want us to add up all 10 terms. Now, you could write them all out and figure it out, right? But if he wants you to show your work, then you need to actually do the sum formula. So the sum formula is n times a sub 1, which we know is 1, plus 28, because that's the 10th term, all divided by 2. So 1 plus 28 times 10 divided by 5 is going to be 58. So if we were to add all those terms together, it would in fact equal 58. Okay? All right. Let's go into a more in-depth problem here. So in a hall, there are 16 chairs in the first row, and each row has 4 more chairs than the previous row. There are 14 rows total. How many chairs altogether? Okay, so that's going to be our sum. So we want to be able to add this up. So I need to figure out how many chairs are in the 14th row. So I know that my first row is 16 chairs, plus n minus 1, which is going to be 14 minus 1, because there's 14 rows total, times the change, which there's 4 more rows in each row. 14 minus 1 is 13, times 4 is 52, plus 16 is going to give me 68. So this is a sub 14, sorry. So I know a sub 1 is 16, so I have 16 plus 68, all divided by 2 times the number of rows, which is 14 rows. So we're going to do 16 plus 68 times 14 divided by 2, which is going to be 588. Okay, so that's how many total seats we would have in this hall if we have 14 rows starting at 16 chairs and we increase by 4 more chairs every time. Again, you could probably draw out a picture and figure that out without this formula, and that's great, but if he wants you to show your work, that's probably what he's expecting. All right, one of the questions might be just which one of these is arithmetic, okay? So you want to look and be like, okay, to get from -6 to -1, I need to add 5. But to get from -1 to 5, I have to add 6. That's a no-go. To get from -6 to -30, I would have to add -24 or subtract 24. And that is clearly not what's going to happen to get from -30 to -150. -6 to -11 is -5. -11 to -6 is -5. And -5. So this one's probably arithmetic, but let's check the other one. This is -5, or +5, I'm sorry. This is +5, and this is +5. So I believe both of those are arithmetic sequences, because I believe the question had more than one answer possible, which does happen. So make sure you read the whole question to make sure that it makes sense. Okay? All right. And we're going to pause that video here.